The book Switch by Heath and Heath cited John Stegner, who worked for a manufacturing company, had thought that the company could reduce the purchasing cost not by 2%, but by something that cost $1 billion over the next 5 years. Instead of creating a 12-tab Excel sheet presenting the savings data, the cost-cutting protocols, he chose to persuade his superiors through oral presentation. Stegner knew that he needed to convince his bosses, and spreadsheets and numbers would not do the trick. Stegner invited all the division presidents to come visit and see his presentations. He presented his points with visuals and through his oral communication skills. Throughout his presentations, it was a rare event when bosses don't have anything to say, but that day they just stood with their mouths gaping. He convinced his bosses through his oral presentation instead of submitting spreadsheets. Bloomberg states that oral communication is one of the top 4 rare skills that companies want most. Ironically, oral communication or public speaking is usually cited as people's biggest fear. Glossophobia, a geeky name for the fear of public speaking, appears when you are expecting or performing an oral presentation. Hope is not lost. Oral communication is a skill, and it can be learned, it can be taught through the 3 V's of oral presentation. And these are what we call the visual, the vocal, and the verbal. For this video, we will elaborate the verbal aspect of oral presentation. Verbal pertains to the content of your presentation, and your content is your connection between you and the audience. The substance, relevance, and credibility of the content answer the question, why would the audience spend time listening to your presentation? To address this effectively, you have to consider the prior knowledge of the audience, which is their schema. This will help you establish the relevance of your presentation. Considering the schema of your audience, you will be able to speak in their language. This is crucial because before you can offer your own language or add new information, you have to know the language of your audience. And this is by asking what they know before you can answer the question what they want to know. This formula is very important because the absence of either of the two won't help you provide the answer to the question, why would they spend time listening to your presentation? Once you have sorted that out, you can now formulate the main idea or thesis statement of your presentation. After establishing the main idea of your presentation, you can now work on with the introduction, and this is comprised of attention getter, transitional sentences, and the main idea. In verbal aspect of your presentation, you can use humor, tell a story, pass around sample, ask thought-provoking question, state true but unbelievable statistics, or state a thought-provoking statement to get the attention of the audience. The transitional sentences should cohesively connect the attention getter and the main idea. Then you can now present your well-established main idea or thesis statement. The body of the content is the elaboration of the key points of your main idea. You do this by providing the supporting and specific details. In organizing these details, you have to consider the application of Grei's maxims. The first is the maxims of quantity. You have to make the content as informative as necessary, and do not make the content more informative than necessary, meaning do not waste the time of your audience by rambling unnecessary information. Second is maxim of quality. Do not discuss a claim for which you lack adequate evidence. Only use credible information and references. Third is relation. You have to make your content relevant to your audience. And the last, maxim of manner, wherein you have to make your content coherent, cohesive, and concise. Conclusion is as important as the introduction and the body. First, you have to restate the main idea of your presentation. Then provide implication by answering the question, what's in it for the audience? This will explain the possible effects of your claim to the lives of the audience. Last, provide a recommendation and closing statement that your audience will remember. You may now check other videos regarding thesis statement formulation and how to write cohesive, coherent, and substantial content.